This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Hustle and Reem with you. Got a busy one today. Ken Wiebe's going to join us a little later on with all the latest on the Jets as we look ahead to the draft and free agency next week. And we got a football game tomorrow and a depth chart and not very many tickets left for the Bombers and Elks at Princess Auto Stadium. Ed Tait will join us later on in the program as well. Just hearing that at the walkthrough, Wade Miller let people know there are less than 700 tickets available left for the game tomorrow, trending for another sellout at Princess Auto Stadium, with the best fans in the league supporting the Winnipeg Blue Bombers like no other team in the Canadian Football League. We will talk a little baseball. Max Scherzer coming back today. And we got the Rocket Classic at the PGA Tour. Pat Gregoire will join me for the Coolbet lines later on. And before we get into Jets talk with Ken and Ed Tait on the Bombers, we're going to have a visit with former Jet goaltender Michael Hutchinson on playing in Finland this year, his growing family, and we'll also talk to him about Connor Hellebuck's incredible season, how much he pays attention to the Jets, and what he thinks about the news of Jonathan Toews coming to Winnipeg. So going to be a real fun show, lots to get to. Welcome to everybody in chat. Hopefully you're having a great day. Great to have you all with us. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. Did have a move in the National Hockey League, which we'll get to in just a minute when I bring Michael Remis in. But before we do that, a huge thanks to the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Our partners at Coolbet Canada, Princess Auto, Perry Toyota Dealers, Ben Moss, St. Vital Dental Center and Manitoba Battery, Rollies Transfer, Canadian Club, F Apparel, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Perry Toyota Dealers, Ben Moss. We got Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, the Gold Eyes, ASD, Assiniboia Downs, Breezy Bend. We will do a Why Not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. And, of course, some fan feedback for fansfirst.ca. So we welcome everybody in chat. We welcome Michael Remis in. Thanks again to Remo and Connor for holding it down at the end of the show yesterday. Remo, what's good, buddy? How are you?
Hey, yeah, feeling good. We're counting down a couple days to the draft. We're starting to recognize, hey, this is going to be, what is it? Remote draft. I'm excited for the celebrity picks. They just announced Joshua Jackson from the Mighty Ducks movie making the the Anaheim Ducks selection. So New Jersey announcements. We had a trade today. Not much on the Jets. Kevin Cheveldayoff talking tomorrow. And, oh, yeah, big football game here. The Blue Bombers and Elks almost sold out. The Commissioners in town. New Commissioner Stuart Johnson. Going to hook up with him tomorrow. So exciting stuff around the city.
Yeah, the commish coming on tomorrow before the game. Looking forward to that. I believe there's an event tonight down at Princess Auto Stadium for stakeholders and season ticket holders. But yeah, Stuart Johnson, the commish, will join us tomorrow on Winnipeg Sports Talk before tomorrow night's game. We're actually also going to bring on Eddie Steele, former Bison standout, longtime CFLer, now doing some great job on commentary out in Edmonton. And he'll join us tomorrow to get ready for the game as well. I guess the big news in the hockey world today was a trade to announce, Reem, and it is our old buddy, the cash phone himself, Evander Kane, on the move from Edmonton in the division to the Vancouver Canucks. No salary retained. He moves to Vancouver for the final year of his contract, and Edmonton gets a 4th-round pick, but maybe more importantly, they get that $5+ million in cap space as they look to maneuver around some big signings that they have to take care of. Trent Frederick reportedly already agreed to an 8-year extension. And, of course, that massive number for Evan Bouchard, which is expected to be signed at some point as well. So there was a lot of talk about the homecoming of Jonathan Daves last week. How about the homecoming of the natural back to Vancouver?
Yeah, bring him home. Evander Kane breaking his own trade on X, putting out a heartfelt message to Edmonton and expressing his excitement to return home to Vancouver. And Vancouver is taking on that whole $5.13 million salary cap. Edmonton negotiating with Evan Bouchard. Could they be trying to clear more room with Victor Arvidsson? Are they going to bring back Corey Perry? What's happening with that contract? And for Vancouver, does this signal they're moving on from Brock Besser? Where is he going to go? Could it be Minnesota, where he's from? Something to watch there. And Connor McDavid, there's reports he's having meetings on an extension. He'll be eligible to sign one July 1, leaving all of his options open. So it's off season in full swing. Could we be seeing more moves leading up to the draft? Well, there's one with Evander Kane. And in the final year of his deal, maybe you're getting the best version of Kane. I remember he was pretty good.
A motivated Evander coming in to try
home.
to cash that next check in another contract.
Yeah, how many more contracts does he have left? He's been in the league for a while now. Remember him here with the Jets. He's only 33 years old. So he's definitely got another deal in him. And if he can stay healthy, you've seen what he can bring, especially in the playoffs, laying the body. He's got a good shot as well. He can skate, although he's battled injuries here the last couple seasons.
We saw the good and the bad of Evander through the playoffs. I mean, he, like it or not, he saved their season in Game 3 of the Los Angeles game, and it wasn't surprising that the biggest goal that they scored to get them back into that series was Evander being an all caps nuisance in the blue paint, banging at a puck with 4 Kings around and making that happen. That was the goal that was infamously challenged by Jim Hiller, which really led to the unraveling of the entire series for the Los Angeles Kings. So, I mean, Kane was very impactful at some points. The problem was, come Cup final, Remo, you saw the other side of Kane. Very undisciplined, taking some bad penalties, putting his team in a bad spot. And we know what Florida did when they had those opportunities. They made the Oilers pay very consistently.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny how he sat out the whole season on LTR and came back for the playoffs. So you saw he was fresh, and by the end of the playoffs last year, not the most recent one, the one before, he was injured. So he's pretty good for the first couple rounds, as you said, was a part of the goal that was challenged, which led to the demise of the Kings in that series. We'll see what he can bring. I'm sure he'll be motivated. It would be nice to be home, but we did have a trade to announce today, and hopefully this is one of many throughout the weekend.
Absolutely. So, yeah, Evander, homecoming, back to the Canucks for next season, 1 year left on his deal. Speaking of trades, our old pal Frank Saravalli has put out his latest trade target list. Remo, is this Frank's last trade target list at Daily Faceoff?
Yeah, Frank, I wonder if he's got himself as a top 50 free agent because Frank's announced that, he's done Daily Faceoff after July 1. So I'm curious where he's going to land. He did leave TSN and join Daily Faceoff. At the time, it was a surprise move, and he's made a name for himself, continued to, as one of the top insiders, and he's got the trade targets board. And one name that was on there that hadn't been in the past comes in at number 2, Jordan Kyrou. He's got 6 years left at $8.125 million AAV. He's averaged 35 goals, 71 points over the last 3 seasons. He's got a no-trade clause, kicks in July 1. For a player who's locked in with years and term, years at 8.1, I wonder if, teams are going to be looking to bring him in. Command, I think, a lot because he's already signed. And I think if you're the Jets and you're going to be losing Nikolai Ehlers in free agency, would you look to try to, empty the check or empty whatever the cupboard of trade picks, prospects, maybe a roster player for a guy like Jordan Kyrou who you'll have under contract?
Is Doug Armstrong going to trade him to the team that they just played in the playoffs and lost to? Listen, I'm not a huge Kyrou fan, to be frank, but he's productive. Listen, he had that real rough stretch after Berube got fired and, the fans sort of turned on him. But 36 goals last year, 70 points. A very productive player. And to be honest, 27 years old in the prime of his career at $8.125 million AAV, that's pretty much the price that's going for a 70-plus point player. So I certainly understand you bringing that up if Nikolai Ehlers is no longer a Winnipeg Jet. The one thing, and I think the reason why we're seeing his name on the list, Remo, if we go back to round number 1, he was steamrolled by Logan Stanley early in the series. And that was an incredibly physical series. Everyone watching this program that follows the Winnipeg Jets remembers what an incredible war that 7-gamer was between Winnipeg and the Blues in the first round. And as the Blues brought it, the Blues probably were about as physical team. I'd love to see that style of hockey, like a Blues team going up against the Panthers. Now, do I think they're good enough as the Panthers? No. But they're one team, and everyone that watched that series knows they brought the lumber every single shift. That's the one thing. If that's the MO for them moving forward, and that's going to be the team that they are, Kyrou is not a great fit. Now, you still got to be able to score goals and make offense. But when I think back to that series, Remo, there was a lot of Blues that were really impactful throughout it. Kyrou was not really much of a factor after the Stanley hit early in the series.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. He scored 3 goals in the 7 games, 0 assists for 3 points. And yeah, he did not make an impact. I think he was flying around the ice before that. You saw his speed. We also noticed he was a bit of a smaller guy and took a big hit from Stan. And he did score in Game 7, but ultimately wasn't enough for the Blues to overcome with the Manitoba Miracle. But that was a name that was put out there today. David Pagnotta noting that it would take a lot to get him, and I think that it should. But I think it was something for a team or any team that has trouble signing players or trading for players. This is a guy who's 27 years old, just had 70 points, making 8.1. The cap's going up, 6-year contract. I think it would be something worth looking into for any team.
Yeah, and listen, maybe he learned a little bit, the hard way about the physicality of the playoffs. It's not like he hasn't been there before, but it's an interesting name that's up there. Now, he's number 2 on Frank's list. Buffalo Sabres on either side of him. JJ Peterka, 23 years old, 27 goals, 68 points. He's number 1 on the trade target board. Listen, Kevin Adams, Sabres GM, has said that they're not really interested in trading him, but apparently coming around to somewhat of an inevitability on that. And then, of course, Bowen Byram, left defense, is number 3. Buffalo really looking to make some big changes. Keandre Miller, 25-year-old defenseman, a pending RFA. He's at number 4. And then number 5, Remo, is a guy that, again, you'd have to figure out a way to make this work because I think he's going to cost some significant assets, and you can't really do that just for 1 year. But I absolutely love Rasmus Andersson. He is 1 year away from unrestricted free agency. And according to Frank, the Flames and Anderson's camp traded initial numbers last week on an extension. It's fair to say they did not see eye to eye. The thought of a player like Anderson on the right side with Josh Morrissey while Dylan Sandberg and Neil Pionk hold down the number 2, shifting Dylan DeMello down to the 3rd pairing. Like that, if you want to win, you want to go far in the playoffs, the Jets probably need maybe one more horse on the blue line. And at this point in his career, 28, Rasmus Andersson is that horse, if you ask me. Now, to get him to sign, you're probably looking at a 7 or 8 year extension. So what does that look like going forward? I guess we'll see. But for next year at 4.55 AAV, he'll be one of the best bargains in the year. And it will be a very motivated player to earn a big contract next year. I just don't know if a team like the Jets or many other teams are willing to pay the assets Calgary would expect in a trade for a player with only 1 year of term left on his deal.
Yeah, I would agree. And if you don't think you're going to be able to sign him long term, it's tough to want to give up a lot. But it would be like getting in on your trade deadline acquisition early. And I think we can both agree that Jets would need, another top pair defenseman. A guy on the right side would certainly fit in nicely there alongside Josh Morrissey. So, as we approach the draft and free agency, how the big questions for the Jets are, how will they replace, if they have to, Nikolai Ehlers? And on defense, are they going to be making any changes there? And they do have a lot of players signed on defense, and I touched on this with Murat as well. Does something change on that end with a Ville Heinola or Logan Stanley? Like, you've signed Shen, you have signed Miller for this year. Shen still under contract as well. Who's the odd man? We still have to sign Sandberg. So there's, you already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. You got 7 defensemen under contract plus Sandberg, and Hayden Fleury's a UFA. So I just don't know if there would be room for him.
Good time for a why not question of the day on that. I mean, considering how many defensemen the Jets have signed for this year, why not question of the day for not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray? What do you think the chances are that one of those players that's under contract for the Jets next season is moved over the course of the weekend heading into July 1st? Maybe a fresh start for Ville Heinola, maybe an asset back for a Luke Shen, although I do think he'll sort of be around here. I mean, Colin Miller, all sorts of possibilities, but especially if they're looking to add, you can only have so many bodies on the roster, and that could mean exposing players to lose them for nothing if you can't get a deal done. So I'm going to be keeping an eye out for that. Listen, we're going to have Michael Hutchinson come and join us in just a minute. Before that, I want to thank our friends over at Rolly's Transfer for their great support of WST. Folks, if you're moving, if you and your family are on the move, holler at Rolly's, family owned and operated for over 60 years. And the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. You can go to their website at rollies.com, click on request an estimate, use the promo code WST for a special discount, and let them know when and where you're moving and what needs to go, and they'll turn it around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove service that Rollies is famous for. For all your moving needs, make it Rollies, now taking care of Manitobans into their 7th decade. Find out more, request an estimate today over at rollies.com. Our friends over at St. Vital Dental Center are ready for the summer. If you want to get the kids or the family in before you take off for the summer, now is the time to do it. And of course, Dr. Terry and his staff in their beautiful new building at 167 St. Anne's, with free parking right behind the building, are ready to serve you, as they've been doing for generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans in St. Vital for many years. Go to stvitaldental.ca. You can find out everything they do, from cleanups and checkups to dental implants. And you can also make an appointment to pop in, and make sure to tell them the folks at WST sent you. St. Vital Dental Center, again, 167 St. Anne's at stvitaldental.ca. Big summer weekend coming up now that it is officially summer. Tomorrow night, the Canadian Club will be flowing at Princess Auto Stadium as the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and both at the game and the weekend, you'll see people enjoying the 3 options from the new Canadian Club Pack, available at your local Manitoba liquor marts, with Canadian Club and Ginger Ale, the CC Citrus Smash, and the Canadian Club Half and Half. Had them all. They're amazing. Check them out and pick them up the next time you're at your local Manitoba liquor marts. And hey, summer is in full swing now. And of course, if you've got battery needs for your boat, your camper, your ATV, a jet ski, you name it, It's time to wake up and stop wasting time and money at the big box stores. Shop local and get the best deals in town, bar none, at Manitoba Battery. 2 locations to serve you. Logan Avenue, their new spot on Dovercourt Drive in the south end of the city. You'll save up to $60 a battery this summer when you keep it local and deal with Manitoba Battery. Not only that, they'll save you time as well. The best customer service in the game. Donnie and the gang, they'll deliver those batteries to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. It is just that easy. Give them a call, pop by in store, or order online today at manitobabattery.com. All right, Ken Wiebe coming up at the top of the hour. Right now, though, let's welcome in an old friend of the show, former Winnipeg Jet goaltender Michael Hutchinson, to Winnipeg Sports Talk. Michael, what's going on? It is great to catch up with you again. What's up?
Not too much. Just enjoying summer, enjoying being a dad, and thanks for having me on.
How is the off season treating you? I guess the off season in a household with a 6, a 4-year-old, and a new baby probably maybe busier than when you're at work overseas.
Oh yeah, it's definitely much busier. During the season, my wife with her business, she's never able to come out full time with me, so she gets to visit here and there, and but other than that, she has to be kind of superwoman and be a single mom for 7 or 8 months of the year, and she has to deal with wrangling the 2 kids and now 3 kids around and running her business and doing all that. So when I get home in the summer, I try and help out as much as possible and take a lot off her plate and let her kind of enjoy some free time and allow her to catch up with her friends and do that. And it's great for me because, miss the kids so much when you're gone that I'll take every second I can with them, even during the most chaotic moments.
Well, I mean, you know how it is as parents. That is truly the definition of no days off. So now, and less so when you add a baby into the mix. Congratulations again for the growing brood now up to 3. And having this all happen this year with your first year overseas must have been challenging as well in some parts. But just first of all, tell us about the decision to go to Finland last year, and how was that experience? Your first year really playing overseas.
Yeah, it was a great experience. I couldn't have asked for kind of a better situation to get into. For myself, is during free agency, there is something in North America I was hoping that was going to work out. So we kind of waited until NHL free agency, and then we were kind of late looking over into Europe by the time we started seriously looking. And with import spots and then being a goalie on top of that, there's not too many spots available. So I was just sitting around waiting for a while. And then, we knew that our due date was at the end of March, which again, in Europe's not ideal for those teams because that's right during their playoffs. And I wasn't going to miss my kid being born. So
kind of important.
Yeah. So we were very upfront with teams like right away that, I was going to be leaving, and if we were still playing after that, I'd have no problem coming back. But, I was going to definitely miss some time during then. So it was tough to find a team that was okay with that and making the investment and bringing me over when they're going to kind of lose their goalie for the most important part of the season at some point. And then, about 2/3 or 1/3 of the way through the Finnish hockey season, the teams in Europe, there's a lot of movement around their national team breaks and stuff, and they were actually losing their goalie, which was I think Solomon. The goalie who was with the Moose last year was the goalie on the team I ended up going to, Finnish guy, or 2 years ago, and he got an opportunity to go to his hometown team in Finland. So Saipa, the team I signed with, they kind of lost their goalie at their first national team break. And luckily, they were completely okay with me coming in. Sebastian Aho on Carolina, his dad was the GM. And so he was very understanding the family kind of comes first. And he knew the hockey lifestyle just from his son, being in the NHL. And I was able to kind of talk to them. And then things happened really fast. I think I talked to them on a Wednesday, and I was on a flight on Saturday kind of thing, heading out there. and no clue what to expect. I was able to get a friend I'd played with in Florida. He signed at the same time as me, so we kind of got in around the same time, and we navigated all the little obstacles in Europe, because when you get there, they supply you with a car and an apartment and stuff. So I got dropped off at my apartment and got handed the keys to a car, and like, okay, this is great. Jump in the car, and all of a sudden I realized that road signs aren't universal. So all of a sudden you realize you have no clue what any of the rules of the road are and stuff. So it was kind of piecing them together, but luckily I was in a smaller town, so there wasn't too much traffic or anything like that, because there's little things like you couldn't make a right-hand turn on a red light in Finland. You can park on either side of the street, but you don't have to turn around and park a certain way. Then there's certain days and hours you couldn't park places. So it was just trying to figure out what all the street signs meant. And then going to a country where everyone spoke English for the most part, which was very helpful. But nothing's written in English anywhere. So
Every Finnish word seems to have like 20 letters in it too.
Yeah. We'd be driving, myself and the other Canadian on our team, we'd be driving and we'd have our GPS going, and when they're saying the street names, we'd kind of be, laughing ourselves, be like, I can't think this is an actual word and people are understanding this, because it has so many vowels and they're so long. And then the first time going grocery shopping, I think it took me over 3 hours to go grocery shopping the first time, because nothing's in English. So Google Translate was my number one used app, and it was great. But just made things a little bit slower. But in getting over there, the hockey was really good. I was really impressed with the skill and the way the game was played. It was definitely better than what I was expecting. I was able to go over to a team that was much improved from the year before, and they were playing well, and we ended up having a really good season. I think we finished 5th place in the regular season and made it all the way to the finals in the playoffs, and lost in the 6th game. But it was a great first experience to go over there. Finland was an amazing country, very safe. People there were extremely friendly and very helpful. So it was all in all a very positive experience.
Michael Hutchinson with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. You mentioned, the uniqueness of your situation, with the pregnant wife. You kind of know how the timing works, and obviously working on things in North America as well. Sort of brings us to July 1st, which is just around the corner. And, as a guy that's been through that a lot, how would you describe what July 1st is like to fans, for players that aren't really sure about where, where their next hockey step is going to be, and what the days coming up to July 1st are like, knowing that, big decisions are going to be made, not just for you yourself, but certainly at your stage, for your young family?
Yeah, it's very chaotic, and things happen very quickly. You don't always get time to weigh your options and stuff, especially I think everyone during free agency focuses on the top of free agent class, which is fun, because that's where, the big money's getting thrown out, and that's where these, team changing signings can happen. So those guys get a lot of time. Like, there's no one's forcing Mitch Marner to make a decision right on day one. Like, he can take his time and figure out what's best for his family and where he wants to go. But for, more role players and guys that are a little bit more interchangeable, you get an offer and it's kind of like, you have to make a decision right away if that's what you want, or if you think you can get something better. And it can be a little bit stressful at times, but it's also exciting to an extent. And then you get to be older and my age, and all of a sudden the phone doesn't ring, and then it's even more stressful and a little bit depressing. But it's I find for myself, free agency's always never gone the way I thought it was going to. And so that's always been the anxiety part of it, is you think it's going to work out one way and then it doesn't. And, sometimes it's been in a positive way. Sometimes, it's been in a more negative direction. But yeah, for the free agency, I think there's a huge difference between the top guys and what they're getting and how they're able to deal with it, and then the chaos of kind of the role players and the lower end players, where there's only so many seats at the table, and you don't want the music to stop and you'd be standing there without a chair. So it's fun for the fans, and it's fun to kind of sit back and see where everyone lands, and I can see that side of it. But from the players, some players find it enjoyable, some players just a stressful day.
Well, I mean, with anybody with their professional future, I mean, there's a lot of stress involved. I think back to when you came in, cut your teeth, and established yourself as an NHLer in Winnipeg. And then, the many different places that you've popped around. At the end of the day, you spent most of the time in the National Hockey League. I mean, that's the goal of every hockey player. It's the best league in the world. You're compensated the best. What was it like early on? Like, did you get better with handling the stress that you talk about in and around July 1st and, finding out that you're going to this team? I mean, always being appreciative that you're in the National Hockey League, but I would imagine that at a certain point, you're just more veteran, if you will. You've been through it, and you can probably handle it a little bit more because there is a lot that goes into it, and certainly for someone with the family, it's more than just you.
Yeah, and then, like I said, it changes once you have kids involved, and even once you get married and you have your wife's involved in this decision too. It definitely changes the whole perspective of everything. But as you get older, you learn how to deal with things better. There's a lot of things early on in my career that you look back on and I'm like, oh, I would have handled this so different. And I give a lot of credit to my time in Toronto. We had a really good mental health division, and so I was able to talk to our therapist there, and it just helped my life, balancing life away from the rink and hockey and keeping things in perspective and just kind of staying present and, not dwelling on the past or things you can't change. So from there, I feel like I've done a good job of, being present. Like, when you hit adversity, it's like, okay, that didn't work on, but like, we're going to reroute this plan and we're going to kind of move forward and make the most of whatever situation we're in right away. So it's just little tools like that you learn kind of along the way, and by sticking around, as long as you do, you can't stick around that long and not find out a way to handle adversity. The players who kind of fall into that category of dwelling on things too much, they tend to walk away from hockey, I think, a little bit bitter and tend to burn out a little bit quicker. So that's just for myself. I was always looking at the positive and changing. If something didn't work out or didn't go the way I thought it was, it's always, okay, what's next? How can we
something about the job, I guess, Michael, in that, a lot of the resiliency that you have to learn as a goaltender, which is the nature of the job, you can sort of, bring forth to regular life decisions as well, because you really are the last line of defense, and you can compare that to, with the family and with the team and much more, but it is interesting. Let me ask you this. I mean, you're spending time out in Finland playing. Obviously, there's time difference and all that. You still got, you're following the National Hockey League, I'd imagine. I mean, how much hockey were you able to see? And were you able to keep tabs on your pals with the Winnipeg Jets and the crazy season that they had?
Yeah, it was the time changes definitely made things interesting. I think the only time I could actually catch a little bit of a game is when they were playing on the West Coast. If I could probably catch the last 5 or 10 minutes of the third period at times. But for the most part, our team was really into watching the NHL highlights on YouTube. So every morning we just go through all the games and watch kind of the extended highlights of every single game. So whenever the Winnipeg ones were on, I was always paying a little bit more attention to that. And I'd check the box score kind of as part of my morning routine, seeing kind of what happened around the league. And it was kind of a crazy year because, it took a while before you started realizing it's like, oh, like they won again. And, then they kept on winning, and then, they're having these streaks here and there. And then I look at the box scores and the highlights often, but I wouldn't check the standings too much. And then I remember when I finally did it, I saw that they were kind of up and away, and I think it was really exciting kind of coming down the stretch, realizing that they had a chance to win the President's Trophy because, living in Winnipeg now, I don't think anyone expected the Jets to win the President's Trophy, not just this year, but, at any point in someone in Winnipeg's lifetime. It's such a rare thing to do is winning the league, and it's very, very tough to do that. And so it was very exciting, especially down the stretch. I was definitely really in on every single game and every morning kind of checking and seeing how they did, how Dallas did, how Washington was doing, and just kind of really rooting for the guys to kind of pull that one out, because it's definitely, I think it gets overshadowed because obviously the Stanley Cup's the number one goal. But, after the Stanley Cup, winning a President's Trophy is a very, very impressive and kind of special thing that, I think the players will, when they're looking back on their career, being a part of a team that won a President's Trophy is definitely going to be a highlight for a lot of them.
There was, a ton of highlights, both team and individual, and I can't help but notice you happen to be wearing a T-shirt of one Connor Hellebuck with the 500 on it. Listen, as a former teammate, as a goaltender, what can you say about the historic season that he put up, not only winning a Vezina and leading his team to the President's Trophy, but being one of a very select group of goaltenders to actually win the Hart Trophy as the MVP of the entire league?
Yeah, it's incredible. I think I was definitely hoping that he'd win the Hart. I think he was one game off the NHL record for most wins.
Yeah, 47 in the season.
Yeah, which is an incredible thing. And, I was kind of hoping, because there's so many players that had incredible seasons. But, as a goalie, I'm biased, and I was hoping that the league would kind of take notice of how exceptional it is and how hard it is to win that many games and be that consistent overall. And I think with Helly, it's an amazing thing how consistent he is, year after year, game after game. He doesn't make these drastic changes or anything like that. He believes in what he does, and he believes in what he does better than pretty much every other goalie out there. And he's just able to go out and execute his game plan over and over and over again. And, when you have all the travel and the fatigue of the season, to be able to stay mentally in it every single game, the way he does is just a remarkable thing. And it was really great to see him, kind of get acknowledged with that and with the Hart for the season that he did have.
You guys were teammates really right at the beginning of both of your NHL careers. When you think back to that, 15, 16, 17 period, with Connor in particular, what stood out to him as a goalie, as a teammate, and did you think that maybe he had a special career, maybe not to the extent with the multiple Vezinas, but did you figure out quite early that this was a guy that, was going to do some special things, or was it just a matter of hard work and getting better every year?
Yeah, it's all on him and the work and effort he put into it, and the dedication he had. Because I know for myself, I first met Connor when I was with the St. John's Ice Caps, and he had just won the Mike Richter Award at UMass Lowell, and we were in the Calder Cup playoffs in Albany in the first round, and they brought him in just for kind of a couple of weeks to get some practices in and get a taste of what pro hockey was going to be like. And we were in the playoffs, so he wasn't going to get a game or anything like that. So I didn't see him on the ice too much, but I saw a little bit, and I know the guys were talking about how, he's hard to score on and stuff like that, which is, as good of a compliment as you're going to get from some pro guys, especially from a goalie. When you're making the jump from college or junior hockey to the pros, there's such a huge difference. It's very hard, especially in practice, where guys have a little bit more time to make that perfect shot and things aren't quite game realistic. It's very difficult to make those saves and stand out, but he was able to kind of come in right away and turn some heads that way. And then, the first full season we got to play together, it didn't go smoothly for him, and even myself. I wasn't getting consistent playing time, which is always difficult to have a consistent outcome when you're, not playing for 4 to 6 weeks at a time at some points that season. And so for him, it was a huge learning experience, and the Jets definitely saw something in him. And for myself as a goalie, I would watch him all the time, trying to figure out, I'm like, okay, like, what's he doing? How does he do this? And there was a lot of things that, I didn't understand in his game at the time in my first year, but some things were working for him, some things weren't. But he kept consistent throughout the whole entire season. He didn't try and make a change halfway through the season. He just believed in what he was doing. And then the next year was the year they brought in Steve Mason. And I remember in the end of year meetings the year before, I think in the media, he told the media that he had no doubt he was going to win a Vezina at some point. And that year, neither one of us had great numbers, and we were on a team. We didn't make the playoffs and stuff. And I remember people being kind of confused, being like, this guy's talking about the Vezina, like he didn't even have a great first year. But at the end of the day, even Marc-Andre Fleury didn't have a great early on in his career. He had to go down to the American Hockey League and build himself back up. And as a goalie, it's really tough to come in and be a starter right away. And sure enough, the next year, he won the Vezina. And so it was just he has this amazing belief in himself, but I give him so much credit. In that year, that summer, he came back to training camp, and he made so many changes in the off season. And I could tell just the amount of video he must have watched, dissecting his game, figuring out what worked and what didn't work, and really reconstructing everything, because he changed how wide his stance was, how he held his hands, like how he was reading the play, how he was patient on his feet and moving. And all these changes, even if you do work on them all summer, it's very hard to feel comfortable in that and stepping into an NHL game. And he just kind of came in, and the team was expecting Mason to kind of be the guy, but really just took off that year, and never even gave Mason a chance to kind of establish himself in Winnipeg. And I think that transformation from his first to second year as a starter in Winnipeg is the most amazing thing I've ever seen as a goalie personally, just because there was such a huge turnaround in the technical side of his game, as far as, just little things with his stance, his glove positioning. And ever since then, he's just kind of improved every year with these little kind of tweaks. But there's certain things in his game that, from myself watching him, you realize he does elite, and he does better than, I would say, any other goalie in the league at certain things that I think really help his game, and stuff like I've tried to implement in my game. But again, it's easier said than done. And I can look back and be like, that's where I lost it there. But he's an amazing goalie with how mentally strong he can be to bring it every single night, but also not change his game or get chasing things, or after a good game, bad game, he's going to come out and play with the same game plan the next night.
He seems to have, and you mentioned that line, of him talking about a Vezina very early in his career, and at a time where he was really being challenged. And you mentioned bringing in Mason, who everyone thought was going to be the number one, and that lasted about 2 days, and then he went on his run. But that level of belief, and I mean, even back in our old days on TSN, and now, sometimes Hellebuck will say things, and it's like there's not a filter. I mean, everything he says is just exactly what he believes. And then there was, of course, the famous quote at the end of this season where Ray was in the playoffs, but he basically said, "I've studied goaltending more than anybody on planet Earth." And you sort of chuckle at it when someone says that, but when you talk to people like yourself and Wade Flaherty and his teammates, you understand the dedication to the craft, and the focus that he's had from a very early age has been a big part of what's made him a multiple Vezina winner and now a Hart Trophy winner. Hutch, I want to ask you before we go, huge news for the Jets in the past few days, the signing of Jonathan Tait, who's coming back to the National Hockey League after, this guy's going straight into the Hall of Fame the first time he's available. And, obviously he had some health issues. It's kept him away from the game. He's coming back to the league and has chosen Winnipeg to do it. As a player that's been in the league, that's played against Taves, that knows, what he's done, what was your reaction to it? And how do you think that is resonating within the players on the Jets right now, as well as other guys around the league? And what does that say about what the Winnipeg Jets have going for them?
Yeah, I think it's an amazing signing. I think for the players who are on the team, you can't help but be excited about it. Taking that much time off at the age he is always a difficult thing. So, you don't know what type of player you're going to be getting, but you also know with who he is as a person and, being the captain of the Chicago Blackhawks for so long, he's going to be a guy who's going to find a role on the team and he's going to excel in whatever that role is. And, it might not be, the first line center role that he had with the Chicago Blackhawks anymore, but he's going to be such a valuable part of their team and he's going to be great for the locker room. And I think that even the fan side of things, I think the fans get so excited when you bring in a local player from Winnipeg, and it's something that it would be great if the Jets could bring back every single player who's from Winnipeg to play on the team. I think that the excitement that every single player would have for that, who's from here and gets a chance to play for their hometown team, would be something special. But I think the experience that he's going to bring into the locker room is going to be very valuable to the guys. I think he'll fit in right away. But yeah, it's a great signing, and it also shows, at the end of the day, like Jonathan Tait, he's been out of the game for a while, but you don't take that competitive side of a person. So that's always going to be there. And when you hear about the teams that he was apparently talking to and stuff like that, he wants to win another cup, and he can see, what Winnipeg has and the trajectory that they're on. And, I'm sure he's excited to be a part of a team that, is very, very close to winning a Stanley Cup. And, I think that goes a long way too with the fans, where they should also be as excited as the players that, this guy, there's sure 31 other teams in the league that would love to have him on their team and sign him. And so he kind of has his pick, and that he picked here, it's very, very exciting.
I know they're cranking out a lot of Jets 19s down at Royal Sports right now in the aftermath of the signing as well. Hey, before we go, and thanks again, this has been so much fun catching up with you. I've got to hit you with the Rick Ralph question. The draft is coming up this week, and there's the first round, and then the second round was a little different when you were picked in 2008. But take us back to, not to date ourselves, but I guess that's 17 years ago, 2008 draft. You go in the third round. You're picked by Boston. Were you there? What was that week like? And what do you remember about hearing your name called in the National Hockey League draft to start your journey to the bigs?
Yeah, it was. My draft was in Ottawa, so growing up in Barrie is only a few-hour drive away. So we drove down and went to the draft. And
big crew?
No, it was just my parents, my brother, my goalie coach at the time, and then my uncle and cousin ended up coming too. But yeah, so we weren't too big of a crew or anything like that. But I was able to play on a really good summer hockey team growing up, and so I played with Stamkos and Pietrangelo and these guys who I knew were going to go very early in the draft. And so we went to the first round, even though I knew I wasn't going to go, just to kind of see what the first round's like. We'll say it's more exciting on TV to watch than it is live in person. Our draft in Ottawa, there's a lot of downtime with commercial breaks where nothing's really happening and stuff, but it was very exciting to see, your friends that you played with and guys you've played against, and seeing where they went and kind of where they're going to start their careers off. And then, the second round kind of started, and I knew I was kind of going to go anywhere from the second to the fourth round. And I ended up going in the third round, and it felt like, a 3-year wait kind of thing. It was going there. And then it's a tough one for kids with the draft, because you are competitive and you do, think highly of yourself. I don't think there's a player in pro hockey that makes it to pro hockey without, having that self-confidence in yourself. So I remember just being there and seeing certain goalies getting picked ahead of me, and being a little bit angry. That I'm like, oh, I don't think that was the right call. Like, I feel like I'm a better goalie than him. But then you get your name called, and all those feelings just completely melt away. And I didn't even hear Boston call my name, because I think right after them, there was 2 or 3 teams that I felt like I had a chance of going to, and Boston, I didn't remember. I remember doing an interview with them at the Combine, but never really reached out to do anything additional with me. So I didn't think that they were that interested. So I was kind of just relaxing during their pick, and then all of a sudden my parents started standing up beside me, and I had to look at the board and saw my name go up. And after that, the whole entire day is kind of just like a full blur, where you're going down, you're meeting GMs, coaches, like all the front office staff. They get you a private box at the rink for every team. So you go there, and all the parents are having some drinks and enjoying it. And so it's one of those days where, it feels like it's so slow until you hear your name called. And then after your name is called, the day feels like it's over in 30 minutes. So
0 to 60 right away, from sitting in the stands to being in the suite. And then, did you go to a development camp right afterwards? Like the Jets are pulling these kids out. They basically shake hands. Great. Here's your stuff. And boom, they're in Winnipeg 48 hours later, getting into it. Did you have the same sort of experience?
Yeah. So when I did it, Boston's development camp was a couple weeks after the draft. So I think most teams do it right after the draft, which makes a lot more sense, because especially if you draft a kid from Europe, they come in for the draft, they're already there.
For sure.
And they can kind of just get going, and they don't have to make an extra flight across the ocean. But for us, it was a couple weeks later that, you go in for development camp and get to see the arena. You get to see kind of what the NHL is all about, and it's a very exciting time. And, even to this day, I'll still watch the NHL draft, and I still get that feeling that I had, the butterflies in your stomach, like right before, and the excitement that you had, just because it is such a huge day. And, every single kid who gets drafted, it's amazing, because they have their foot in the door towards their NHL dream. And, at the same time, the kids who don't get drafted, you hear stories all the time of the guys who don't get drafted, and they make it and have great careers and stuff. For myself as a goalie, I remember Martin Jones didn't get drafted in my draft, and went on to have an amazing NHL career, played World Juniors the next year. So I always think about him whenever the draft's going and you hear about kids who aren't drafted. It's like, draft's exciting and it's fun, but also at the same time, in perspective, if you don't get drafted, just keep on believing in yourself and working hard, and if you're good enough, you'll find a way.
Hey, Michael, thanks so much for doing this. It's great. And congratulations again on the new addition to the family. And of course, it's incredible that with a wife with such an incredible business, that you're able to still stay in playing shape with all of those incredible treats around and available. But in all seriousness, great to have you back in the Peg on the program. Have a great rest of the off season. And I know you'll be busy with what you've got on your hands at home right now. Take care, pal. Let's do this again sometime.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me.
All right, good stuff. How about Hutch rolling in with the Connor Hellebuck 500 shirt? Really cool. Love that conversation. He's such a nice guy. Very popular player when he was here. And good friend of the show. We'll look forward to having some more conversations with Hutch as we move forward, and certainly wish him luck in the offseason to see where he ends up playing in the net next season. We are going to talk Bombers coming up with Eddie Tait after Ken joins us. The depth chart is out. No big changes. Nick Dembski is, though, a game-time decision. We'll get more on that from Ed coming up a little later on. Of course, Princess Auto Stadium, folks, is the place to be tomorrow. Less than 700 tickets left. We're going to fill that sucker again. Should be another beautiful, beautiful night for some football. 25, mainly sunny. Does it get any better than that? I don't think so. Well, it does get better than that. A win, and the Bombers going to 3-0. Of course, Princess Auto, proud sponsors of the Bombers and WST, 3 locations in Manitoba. where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is waiting for you at Princess Auto. Pop by and see them in store or shop online 24/7 at princessauto.com. I am now in a countdown mode to get out with Mark, our auction winner for the HSC Foundation, to get out to beautiful Aikens Lake in early July. I cannot wait, folks. If you are into fishing, you're thinking about maybe a really cool fly-in fishing experience unlike any that you've had, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge is the spot. Pop over to aikenslake.com. You can find out much more about the world-class fishing, the world-class hospitality, and options for a fishing trip of your dreams. And of course, as incredible as the fishing is, the hospitality, frankly, is maybe even better by the Aikens team and the Turan family. Check them out online as well, or on all their socials at Aikens Lake for more on what the Aikens experience is all about. And hey, big sun sale coming up on the weekend over at F Apparel. 2 days only, 15% off everything in store. So guys, if you got wedding season coming up, lots going on, now's a great time. June 28th and 29th, 15% off everything. It's the everything under the sun sale at F Apparel. Pop down there with the best in suits, custom suits, chinos, golf pants, shirts, custom shirts, tucked, untucked styles. They got it all. And of course, if you are in a wedding or having or in a wedding party, talk to the fellas at F about a great discount for you when you get your suits for the wedding party, when you get your suits for the big day at F Apparel, 190 Smith Street downtown, EPH Apparel, F Apparel online for more information on the sale and of course to make an appointment to come in for a fitting. All right, Wiebe is locked and loaded. This segment's brought to you by your Prairie Toyota dealers who want to remind you to get in and go with the Toyota Tundra. Quality that means it has the strength to take on any challenge, off-road or hauling a heavy load, and it's backed by the peace of mind knowing it's a Toyota. So take the road less traveled in comfort, room for teammates, friends, and gear. And can we talk about how good the Tundra looks? Anywhere it goes, it's turning heads. Available from $154 weekly for 60 months at 5.39% APR with $71.99 down. Hybrid options available. Visit shoptoyota.ca. All right, counting down to the draft. Free agency next week. It is our weekly visit with none other than Ken Wiebe of the Winnipeg Free Press. Wiebe, what's up? Great to see you at the ball game last Thursday. How are you?
Doing excellent, Andrew. Great to be with you as always. And fun time of year. And let's right out of the gate, kudos to Jennifer Botterill on her Hall of Fame induction. Huss, fortunate enough to catch up with her first on the conference call, but Jen was kind enough to call me after and put a few more of the details together. And just what an incredible moment. For those who haven't read my story, Jen is in the province visiting her folks at West Hawk Lake, and they were out in a boat ride, came back in, and Jen didn't have her phone with her, Huss, and when she got back to shore, she noticed a number that was not in her phone that had called several times, and they called again, and that time she picked up and got the incredible news from Mike Gartner and Ron Francis that she was among the class of 8 that would be in the 2025 Hall of Fame induction class. We know this is probably a little bit overdue recognition for one of the greatest and most decorated athletes this province has produced. But she was feeling nothing but gratitude yesterday, Huss. So stick taps to Jennifer, and great that she got to share it with her, all of her family, except for Jason, who is a little bit busy in his new role this week. But I'm sure they were able to connect over the phone or FaceTime or whatever else they were able to do.
I tweeted this out last night, but I saw a picture from Sammy Joe Small.
Oh, amazing, yes.
Who posted that picture of her and Jen with their gold medals on one of their many times representing Canada internationally. And it got me thinking, like Sammy Joe congratulating Jen going into the Hockey Hall of Fame just days after Jonathan Toews signs with the Winnipeg Jets coming back. It's been a very, very cool week for Winnipeg, for Manitoba, for hockey in the province, and in a lot of ways, a nice little precursor to draft weekend where there's a lot of Manitoba talent that we expect to hear their name called, led by Carter Bear, potentially in the first rounder. So, listen, lots happening. I know Bernie and the guys down at Hockey Manitoba, I'm sure, are smiling right now for many reasons. Listen, let's just get back to Taves because, of course, we did the ball game and the news broke on Friday. Is that right? Friday, the next day afterwards?
Morning, yes. I was a little distracted.
We saw you working.
Thursday, I was a little distracted. Yes, you did notice, I think. Yes.
There's people, geez, Ken's really hammering out a lot of texts right now. And maybe he's on something. And boom, lo and behold, it happened. I'm sure you've had tons of conversations about this with people, not just locally, but around the league. What's been the feedback? What are you hearing about the homecoming of Jonathan Taves?
Yeah, for sure, Huss. And yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of the job is that, it was great to be at the ballpark and get a ton of conversations in, but, things started to kind of maybe percolate a little bit that evening, and did our best to get her over the finish line on Friday morning, obviously working a little bit in concert with my pal, Elliot Friedman there. And yeah, I mean, just, it's a great story, first and foremost, but Jonathan isn't coming back. Huss, we've talked about this for weeks and months, to be honest. This isn't just a victory lap type of scenario for him. This is a chance for him to author another chapter on what has already been a storied career. And quite frankly, I mean, we're talking about Hall of Fame. Like, this is a direct entry Hall of Fame person and player. So this isn't just, to show that he can do it and get back and play one game and, peace out into the night. This is a guy who is very driven to win a championship. And, we saw his Instagram post. He's very excited about the prospects. He wouldn't have signed in Winnipeg if he didn't think that they met his criteria. He wanted to come back to a team that wanted to win. There were a lot of teams that are contenders that wanted his services. And yes, I mean, ultimately he decided to play in his hometown, his home province, a place where, he's won the Order of Manitoba. He has a community center and a lake named after him. I mean, this isn't a guy who needs to build on his legacy. His legacy is, quite secure. He's accomplished, almost everything you could accomplish as a hockey player. But he would love to be part of a team that brings that first championship banner since the WHA days back to Winnipeg. And yeah, I mean, sure, I understand there's some folks that are skeptical and, curious about how it's going to look. But as we've discussed, Huss, this is a guy who isn't coming back for mediocrity for me. This is a guy who's very driven to, be the player that he has always been. Now, will it take a while to get to that level? Well, probably. I mean, there's 2 years of rust to shake off, and he's going through something that not very many athletes or people have had to go through in terms of coming back to a elite portion of their sport after a 2-year hiatus. So, but again, body works in mysterious ways. There's a lot of advancements here, Huss. We know, we've talked about a lot of the players, Brad Marchand, Corey Perry thriving, Sidney Crosby. Obviously different scenario, but what he went through with the concussions early in his career, Huss, a lot of people thought he was done at the time, and he came back and he's as good as ever. So I think it's been well received around the league. Yes, some people are curious what it's going to look like, but I would be in that camp that is expecting Jonathan to be an important contributor. And, again, it's up to him to show that, but I personally wouldn't bet against him.
I'm with you. And I've had some really interesting conversations with some people that are connected to Jonathan that have been working with him over the course of the year. And I can tell you that people around him are very, legitimately excited to see what he'll be able to do when he gets back out on the ice. And tell you what, I mean, I get it. I mean, when you're coming back from this time away, there are questions that won't be answered till we're on the ice. But tell you what, I'm even more enthusiastic or excited about the possibilities of this as we get into a very busy week or few weeks for the Winnipeg Jets to see what the rest of this lineup looks like. And I know Elliot mentioned this. I mean, and I did too on the program. I mean, it was interesting, the timing of it, Ken. A week in advance of July 1st, before the draft, even though he can't actually sign the deal until July 1st. What did you make of the timing of it? And do you think part of that was maybe signaling to a certain guy that's got some big decisions to be made that things are continuing to progress in the right direction?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that Jonathan's been mulling over for quite some time, Huss. And, there were a lot of there were some serious candidates right down to the wire here. But Yeah, I mean, I think you can't ignore the fact that there's an important decision coming on Nikolai Ehlers. But again, I think that most teams want to have clarity going into this week. I mean, going into the draft picks, draft capital, it's a little bit different this year with a little bit of volatility after around the 12th pick. If you're listening to the draft experts, and I know a lot of folks have been digging into that this week. I think Jonathan for himself wanted some clarity. For sure, the Jets wanted to have an idea of if he was going to be in that mix as they prepare for free agency and some potential trades over the course of the next week or whatever else. So I think it probably is beneficial to all parties. But yeah, I mean, if we're looking at the business cycle of the National Hockey League, much like we're seeing over in Calgary, it wasn't a coincidence that Rasmus Andersson's name got out there, is back out there, in the week where a lot of business is being done here. So, again, is that part of the pitch to Nikolai Ehlers? I think it would help. I mean, right now, we're looking at depth charts. I know some people are, again, want to know if Jonathan Toews can play a second line role. I would say right now, going into the year, Toews, Perfetti, and then there's a question mark whether that's going to be Ehlers or if it's going to be someone acquired in trade or free agency. We know there was a move today involving Evander Kane going to his hometown team. So, again, for me, there's some interesting guys out there. Huss, I mean, I was doing a little digging today. I know you'd asked me before, and, we'll be writing about this in the weeks to come. I think, a guy like Kasperi Kapanen is interesting, sort of resurrected himself in Edmonton. Victor Olofsson is a guy who's interesting to me. Pending UFA, had a, solid year. In Vegas, previously in Buffalo, 3-time 20-plus goal scorer. He can really skate and he can shoot it, and he's got some defensive, pedigree to his game also. But again, these aren't massive whopper names, and again, these are not people that you'd be asking to directly replace Nikolai Ehlers if he chooses to move on. But you need some guys that are going to help contribute offense in different areas. So. Those are two of the guys that maybe he be keeping our eyes on. But again, we don't know who's available. Ricard Raquel is a guy who's been linked to the Jets, but he has no trade protection.
What about Brian Rust?
Yeah, I mean, I saw the report that Rust loses his no trade on July 1 here. So, I mean, interesting guy. I mean, he's probably definitely not producing at a level he used to, but I think he'd be someone that'd be worth
31 goals.
Yeah, I mean, in the last couple of years, he's still been very productive, right? So, and he has championship pedigree. So, I mean, that would be a guy who's appealing. But I mean, what are you giving, right? I mean, yes,
actually, that's a career high.
And 28 the year before, was it Huss? 28 or
like last year, a career high, 31 goals and 65 points. The previous year, 28 and 28 for 56.
Yeah. I like the player a lot, Huss. I mean,
he's 33, 3 years left on his contract, and the contract's $5 million. I mean, we're not talking about something that's going to completely throw the salary scale out of whack. The reason I bring him up, Ken, is that I think that there would be a fit if Ehlers was gone.
Yep.
And, there's no one that's just ready to jump in, I think, right now. And listen, if someone does, that's a nice luxury to have. You'll have a guy that can play somewhere else in the lineup. But I mean, Russ is a player that has played with like high level players beforehand, played a lot with Sidney Crosby.
For sure.
And the fact that he will not have trade protection. I mean, this doesn't matter in a lot of other locales. It does here in Winnipeg when Kevin Cheveldayoff is trying to make deals.
Yeah, for sure. And again, even though the player is losing the trade protection, Rust has been a guy who's given a lot to the organization. So I think they would probably, even though it's under new management with Kyle Dubas, I think they'd probably still be looking at, this is sort of, to me, a little bit like the Ryan O'Reilly scenario last year, Huss. He may not have had trade protection, but was sort of being treated like he did. So again, that doesn't rule out Winnipeg or anything of that nature. It's just something, it's an additional layer that you have to be aware of, which is something that we'll be watching for sure. Again, championship pedigree, the guy that can score, he's a winner, plays hard, defensively responsible, all of those things. So yeah, I mean, it'd be a fit, but I mean, Huss, that also means he's probably a fit for every contender looking for scoring help. So that means you're going to have to win the bidding for his services if he is indeed made available. And, as Elliot said, I mean, the Penguins are one of the teams that are selling. So, I mean, Brian Rust is a guy that has value.
At least they can get in the conversation. I mean, there's so many of these ones where it's a non-starter because the Jets are on a list or he's got full no move. This is not one of those cases. And I'll say this, as much as I think they want to do him right, Kyle Dubas also has a job to do, a very difficult one moving forward, to try to get this thing into a position where they can return to being a contender in the future. And, if they are looking to move assets, that's an asset that you could get something back for, especially in and around the draft. So
it's just a little bit tricky, Huss, with, last year of Malkin. So again, I don't think that Pittsburgh is going scorched earth here. So it makes it challenging because, yes, Erik Karlsson's name is out there, but, they still have Crosby, they still have Letang, they still have Malkin. All due respect to Rutger McGroarty, I think that there will be a time that he's going to become a regular here for them, but I'm not sure they're ready to hand over the baton from Brian Rust to Rutger just yet. That's my only cautionary flag here. Though again, if you're dangling the 28th overall pick and something else in the prospect pool, hey, Kyle Dubas should be listening. But I think there'll be other teams that are bidding for his services as well. But again, it's a great name to have identified, and yes, he looks like a really good fit on a lot of levels.
I do wonder how, if it was, because of the timing of this is interesting, with it being July 1, that there's no trade protection. If you did come to some sort of an agreement that, we're going to give you this guy in our system and the 28th overall pick, I guess maybe you just go to a player and say, listen, this is going to happen on Tuesday. Are you fine with us doing it right now? If not, you might actually have to make a pick for a team, wait 3 or 4 days.
Right.
Say, listen, normally we'd invite you to development camp, but heads up, you're going to be getting a call on Tuesday, so you might want to make your way over to Pittsburgh. I'm not sure how that would work. He's just an intriguing guy for me right now. Have you heard anything on Ehlers right now, or is it crickets?
Mostly quiet. Yeah, certainly sending a lot of notes and sniffing around out there, Huss. But I think it's reached that stage where quiet on both ends. And, I think that's the way that both sides want to keep it. But as I've said, barring, something coming in under the wire. And again, we should also remember, Huss, history is supposed to be there as a guide. Well, Sam Reinhart went right down to the wire last year with the Florida Panthers and ended up signing on June 30th. So all to say, it is still possible. And as we've discussed, that 8th year goes away on July 1. So, you're probably gauging the market as best you can about what the offers may be. But one of the issues, Huss, is that once Marner is off the board, and if Bennett is indeed staying, like he basically announced to the world in Wolf of Wall Street fashion that he is, now, Nicola, if you're in the running for someone who is scoring winger, Huss, maybe you up your offer. Now, can you up it high enough that it beats the 8 times whatever the Jets are willing to go? That's still a tough thing to do. But with that injection of money into the cap going to 95.5, some team could still have that opportunity to give you that, kind of Hail Mary bid, as soon as July 1 opens. So I think it's still a very interesting time. And, again, the longer it goes, the less likely it is he returns. That this is not breaking news. But again, I have no indication has been given that that door is fully closed. And why would you close it? If you're Ehlers or Andre Rufner, you do not close that door until 11:59 p.m. Right? There's no reason to do that. Otherwise, you're eliminating someone who can give you the most years. So,
and I would suggest that they wouldn't eliminate the Jets after 11:59 based on what else is out there, unless they have a very clear idea of what is going to be officially put on the table, as
for sure,
as often happens. Let me, we've talked so much about Ehlers. We haven't talked a lot about everybody else.
Sure.
Let me ask you this. Dominic Toninato, of course, Mason Appleton, Brandon Tanev, Hayden Fleury, who I thought was very valuable to the team last year. Do you see any of those players potentially coming back before July 1st, or will we likely see those players sign elsewhere after the 1st of July?
Well, I think Hayden was very clear throughout the course of the year, and I had a conversation with him during the year where he made it quite clear that he was very interested in sticking around more than this year. So obviously things were a little bit uneven at times. Hayden worked his way into the top 4 out of necessity when Dylan Sandberg went down. Then he got hurt himself, and it took him quite a while to get back to that level, and he kind of got jumped by Logan Stanley in the depth chart rankings. But by the end, I mean, there's a 33-minute game in the Stanley Cup playoffs that he has in his resume that would have caught the attention of a lot of teams. I mean, there aren't a lot of 6'4" defensemen that are as big as Hayden is that can skate at that elite level. So I do think that he's still very much under consideration for the Jets to stick around, and the player is interested in sticking around. As Murat had mentioned, I mean, Dominic Toninato has, chosen to represent himself. So to me, Huss, I think you're only doing that. I know Anthony Duclair did it a few years ago, but we know that Toninato has a young family, loves the setup with, having been the captain of the Moose. I would expect that he would be someone that looks like a, for sure, one of the call-up situation guys who, probably captaining the Moose again, like Jimmy Olney did for a long time. In terms of Appleton, it's interesting. So yeah, I mean, I think that obviously he made it clear he'd be open to sticking around, but I think that he's probably also curious. He saw some other contracts and we know this. I mean, it was tweeted at him about the Jordan Greenway deal was tweeted at his agent, I think, for sure, and then whatever else happened there. So I think that he'd be curious to what else is out there. But again, he's also a guy that went away and then came back and recognized he didn't have the same role elsewhere that he had here. So, does that change now with Adam Lowry being on the shelf for the first month and change or whatever he ends up being out? I'm not sure. Only Mason and his camp know that for sure. But right now, it sort of seems leaning likely that he will explore free agency. And then in terms of Brandon Tanev, again, he loved being back here. That was very evident. He brought a lot of energy, physicality, penalty killing prowess. But I mean, he didn't produce any offense here, Huss, during his 20 plus games, which is surprising because he produced his most offense with Winnipeg before he got that 6-year deal with the Penguins. So I could see Brandon wanting to connect with his brother. I think those two guys would find it appealing. We know that Toronto, the Leafs are looking to sort of change their DNA mix in the bottom six. So I could see that being a possible destination. But again, he hasn't ruled out being here. We know what the city and this province means to him, what the organization means to him. They're the team that gave him the college free agents chance when he signed, out of Providence College there. So that's sort of where I'm at with those guys, Huss. And, again, do I expect a huge splash in the pool? Not necessarily, but I do think the Jets will be active on, some, I'm not going to call them second tier guys, but some, lesser known guys. I mean, as I wrote last week, I mean, the Jets are looking for the next Carter Verhaeghe, Huss. We've been talking about this for quite some time too. The problem is all 32 teams are looking for that guy who was a fourth line player. And was ready for top six duty. Now, very few of them become 40-goal scorers, but there are guys out there that maybe in a different system or a different situation, or maybe you're playing with Cole Perfetti instead of on the fourth line, that you can become a 60-plus goal, not 60-plus goal, but 60-plus point player. So those will be the guys that they'll be looking for, and you're also looking at teams that maybe either don't want to spend to the ceiling or have some excess that they're going to have to trim in the middle here. So there's always value players, Huss. We're not far removed from seeing what Dylan Strome did, right? There's Dylan Strome helping Ovi break the record. He had to take a show-me deal that first year in Washington, right? So these contracts are available, but there's obviously huge competition for those guys' services, and we've seen a couple guys come off the board. Matt Duchene sticking around in Dallas, that's another interesting one, but that also means that Mikael Granlund is probably going to be available. So,
hey, speaking of Granlund, I mean, do you think the Jets take a run at him? I mean, I know you kind of said that, is the plan for Taves to just, he is the 2C, or are they going to look to continue to, build depth at that position and see where things fall when they come in? Obviously, you can always move a guy to the wing if need be.
Yeah, I mean, Granlund's interesting, right? Because he is versatile enough. He spent the majority of his time in Dallas on the wing. So, I mean, the Jets would be super familiar with him. A, from the playoffs, B, from his time in Nashville, C, from his time in Minnesota. So, I felt in the past like they would be a team that makes sense for Granlund. And again, like you said, because there's a little bit of uncertainty there, Granlund could play center, he could play wing, depending on how things sort themselves out. But again, a lot of the folks, Huss, that are saying, the Jets have no depth down the middle. I mean, they still have Nemestikov as a sort of a safety valve there if they need it. And we saw that Morgan Barron can handle the minutes also too between those three guys.
I guess the question is that good enough?
Well, no, I mean, it remains to be seen. But I think, Huss, we would agree that because of the uncertainty around Ehlers, I think you're shopping in the winger aisle before you're shopping in the center aisle, because you have got point totals weren't at a 2C level. but the Jets were still a, President's Trophy winning team with 6 playoff wins
won a lot of games
with him as the 2C. So, and the beauty of Namestnikov, Huss, is he can also play on the wing. And so he plays center at the beginning. Then when Lowry comes back, you can put, people have forgotten. Namestnikov came here and played on the wing with Lowry in his first game, and they shut down Connor McDavid. And I think Namestnikov either scored a goal or set up the winner. So again, he's a guy that can handle that job and has handled it before. And again, we'll see what happens. And this is not a Jets putting all of their eggs in one basket scenario, Huss, but I would say that their needs are greater on the wing than they are at center based on what we've been discussing. And, David Gustafsson is still in that mix too for the 4th line job. But yeah, right now it's Taves, Namestnikov. Could easily be a guy that's playing on the 3rd line on the wing if he's not playing center. So it's an interesting time, and we'll get a lot more of our answers over the next week or two here. And, as your next guest knows, sometimes at this time of the year, the old crystal ball's a little cloudy, as our pal Eddie Tait knows. But that is also part of the fun of sort of looking into the future and trying to do our best at predicting and projecting. But it's definitely going to be a fascinating time because there's a lot of moving parts. And then never mind, when July 1st starts, now we're wondering about Kyle Connor's extension and what's happening next there, so.
Hey, listen, just grab that crystal ball, give it a shake, because I need you to tell me this. Luke Shen, Colin Miller, Logan Stanley, Ville Heinola, all on the roster, all with 1 year left of term. What are the chances that one of those players is no longer a Jet in 2 weeks, we'll say, at some point this weekend? And if one of them does go, who's most likely to be on the move?
Yeah, Huss, we've been talking about the free Ville movement for a long time. And I think the moment that Neil Pionk signed his extension, that basically, to me, sealed the fate of Ville Heinola. We know what happened this year. We know that the Jets had plans for him. The Jets had plans for him to start the year probably on the 3rd pairing, but his ankle did not allow him to do that. Never really got himself back up to full speed, and it wasn't a real candidate for the majority down the stretch or into the playoffs. So I would say he's the most likely to be moved. Again, there's also veteran guys that would have other appeal to other organizations. So we'll find out more too about how the Jets feel. We know the Jets love Elias Solomonson, Huss. I don't know that they'd necessarily make room for him right away, but again, that's something that could happen here. A lot of teams like the depth of right shot defensemen. I'd say 3 of those 4 guys are on the roster to start the year, Huss. And even if there are 3 of 4, there still could be room for Solomonson, but there's more likely needs to be 2 of those 4 moved in order for him to be a top 6 player, because the Jets aren't going to want to roll him around as a 7th D-man. And if he's on the team, he's going to be playing 3rd pairing minutes and meaningful ice time. Otherwise, he's better off playing 1st pairing minutes with the Moose and continuing his development path, and then coming up if there's an injury or an opportunity elsewhere.
Can rumors abound that you and Rennie are going to be getting after it later on? Can you confirm?
Confirmed here by the source. Happy to report that at the top of the hour, Jason Bukala and Sam Cosentino are pals from Sportsnet. Will be joining us for the special draft day edition and preview. So so it's going to be a fun show, Huss. Sorry for the late notice. Thank you for getting the bat signal out there. Normally we would go on Thursday, but I'll be in Morden on Thursday afternoon. My uncle Ed Dirksen passed away recently, and the funeral is Thursday. So yeah, thanks, my friend. So with Kevin Cheveldayoff speaking Thursday morning, our Thursday window has been blocked out. So we're going to do a last minute edition, pop-up edition of the draft preview, and then should be a fun weekend. We'll see if it's a Friday or Saturday show to follow up. But thank you for shining a light. Enjoy the Bomber game. And have a great weekend when it arrives, my man.
We'll hit the Coolbet lines later on, but I am looking odds. Sam Cosentino plus 250 to be wearing a scarf at the end of June on the KNR show. We'll see whether we cash that one a little later on. Looking forward to it. We'll send everyone over when we're done here on WST.
Thanks, my friend. Have a great segment with Eddie, and should be another interesting Bomber game ahead here.
You bet. There's Ken Wiebe, and stick around. We'll raid the fellas once we're done here on WST. Hey, big game tomorrow. We're less than 700 tickets left. You want to be there, and you also want to be geared up supporting the home team. Folks, if you need to up your Bomber look for tomorrow night's game or the rest of the season, head on down to Royal Sports. Tons of great new Bomber gear, many exclusives that you won't find anywhere else. And while you're at it, you may as well go 2 for 1. You can put your order in for a Jonathan Toews Winnipeg Jets jersey, which are flying off the shelves as well. Royal Sports, more than just the best fan store around soccer, baseball, softball, tennis, running, tons of bikes, an amazing Yeti cooler section. Dominate summer with Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. And, of course, you can follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. Looking forward to getting down to Boston Pizza. Now, I was doing the lock shop today with Nielsen. He was in a BP and dropped on me some other news. A new logo for BP, which blew me away. But the new summer menu, which has a Cactus Cuts sundae on it. I'm very intrigued. He was trying it later on. I'll have a report for you. We may have to get onto it. But the good news, some of the hits of the playoff menu are sticking around, including the Canadian All-Star Maple Poutine. Get on down to Royal Sports. If you're not able to be at the game tomorrow, the next best place is your local BP. And, of course, the big game will be on with big sound. That is, and again, you can get onto this new summer menu, which is live at your local Boston Pizza right now. Order online as well to get it at home at bostonpizza.com. We do have a big game tomorrow. Bombers looking to go 3-0. Likely sell out with less than 700 tickets left. Just before we bring in Ed Tait, let's give a big cheers to Winnipeg and Manitoba's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, Bombers Elks tomorrow to kick off week 4 of the Canadian Football League season. Let's welcome in the brains of the operation, Ed Tait, BlueBombers.com. Eddie, what's going on? How are you?
Fantastic, Huss. How are you doing?
I'm great. Good spirits heading into tomorrow's big game. Really nice start to the season. And, it's been weird. Back-to-back games against BC to start things off. Bizarre. Last time the Bombers will see them unless they play in the playoffs. And 2 completely different quarterback matchups. I don't know when the last time that would have happened. Strevler and Rourke, followed by Masoli and Caleros. But the bottom line is really impressive team wins, offense, defense, special teams contributing. And, I know we heard Mike O'Shea say that there's still a lot of work to be done for this football team. But considering the opposition and some of the question marks around the team not having Zach for week 1 or week 2, as it were, after the bye, pretty nice position this team is going in, albeit on a short week, to take on a hungry Edmonton team.
Yeah, and don't forget, too, Brady Oliveira's played like 1 series this season, too, right?
Two carries.
Yeah, nobody's complaining about 2-0, that's for sure, and especially compared to last year when everything seemed to go wrong at the beginning when they were 0-4 and then 2-6 to start the season. There's a lot to like, and to your point, Huss, if you talk to anybody in the locker room over the last few days, they're all saying the same thing, that they're just scratching the surface here, that there's so much room to grow. And I found it interesting hearing that from the defensive side too, because I thought they've been really good through the first 2 games.
You know what? Let's start on defense. And I came onto the program on Monday, I guess. And listen, there was a lot to get to. Some really nice performances. We had the thick 6. We had, there was all sorts of great stuff that happened in the game. But man, the guy that stood out to me the most, that I've been talking to Bomber fans for the last few days, was Terrell Bonds on the corner. I mean, elite receiving talent on that BC team. And the way he was competing on play after play, not only against, decorated all-star receivers, but the positioning too at times, just like simply having great positioning and running guys out of bounds. We knew that would be a big question as to who's going to fill Ford's spot, how this is going to look. What a start to the season for the secondary. Bridges and now Bonds, I thought, with a breakout game last week in BC.
Yeah, there was a lot to like from that group. You've got Dietrich Nichols and Evan Holm. We expect those guys to be really good. I thought Jamal Parker, too, was really good at safety. You're right. There have been some questions about who was going to play corner over the last couple of years. D. Alford goes to the NFL, then Demario Houston comes in, he leaves, and last year was Terrell Ford, and he's gone. So this team can find corners. This team can find defensive backs, and I really like the way Jordan Younger uses them. We've seen some different looks from the defense too this year. It seems to me that there's a lot more blitzing and a lot more different fronts up front, and you don't do that unless you've got some faith in your guys in the secondary. And, you make a good point here, Huss. We've seen in the past where the Bombers get burned for a touchdown through the air, that often it's a bust or something defensively, but they've been in position to make a lot of plays this year. And that's the main thing, is that it's not an assignment mistake. And we're talking about some new faces in the secondary too. So that's the encouraging part with what we've seen from this defensive crew through 2 games.
Well, and listen, I mean, it's easy to focus in on the guys that are playing once the ball's been thrown, but I think we've also got to give some credit to the guys in the trenches. I was really impressed with the first game performance. I mean, I thought, well, the sack numbers weren't there. Nathan Rourke never had time to get comfortable. And, this addition of Vaughters alongside Willie Jefferson, who didn't last the full 60 minutes, granted, but was more than happy to wave everybody off as he left the game. But, some nice early returns for the big guys up front.
It's Vaughters is that veteran presence opposite Willie, and, he hasn't popped off on the stats page yet, but, teams aren't going to be able to double Willie Jefferson as much as they did in the past because you've got a proven guy at the other end there. The other guy that's getting better too, just coming back from knee injury, is Cam Lawson, and he really got into Jeremiah Mazzoli's face last week that led to the Jamal Parker interception. So, and Devin Adams in his second year is really taking a step forward too. There's this defense has the potential to be really good. It was already statistically the number 1 unit last year. But again, with their confidence in their secondary and these guys all in their second and third years, and a lot of them in their second and third years, they are more comfortable in Jordan Younger's defense. I think because they know their stuff, he's going to call more things, and that makes it really difficult for a quarterback because you don't necessarily know what you're seeing across the line of scrimmage because they do such a good job of disguising things.
On the other side of the football, Zach came in. I thought he played really well. Obviously, had a couple that he'd probably like back, but I mean, a win is a win. But I've been really interested as to how this offense looks now that Buck Pierce is on the other side, or has been on the other side of the sideline for the last 2 games, and Jason Hogan has taken over as the offensive coordinator. A great running performance in the first game. Still solid running, maybe not quite as explosive as in week number 2, but moving the football around. Like, what have you observed both on the field but also around the team with the new guy in charge of the offense?
That's a great question because it's hard to get a gauge on an offensive coordinator in the second game when it's against the same opponent, right? I thought BC countered from week 1 to try to take the runaway effectively from the Bombers in the second meeting. But you think of that opening drive in Vancouver last week. Zach ends up going 7 for 7 and throws his 200th touchdown to Dalton Schoen on that spectacular play. But before that, on a short yardage, they had kept Strevler in, and then he threw that touchdown pass to Michael Chris-Ike that was called back because of a Kevin Sklarcius penalty. A lot of offenses might have just pumped the brakes there and taken the 3, but the Bombers stayed aggressive and get out to that early lead. And I like what we saw in the offense, but they're the first to say it kind of bogged down for a little bit after that. I think they only had 1 first down in the third quarter on Saturday in BC. But we're seeing how Dalton Schoen and Zach have that rekindled that relationship they had. I think Carrick Wheatfall is on the verge of stardom here, guys. I think that there's really something there. Nick Dembski got dinged up in that game. He's a game-time decision tomorrow. And again, no Brady Oliveira. This offense is starting to hum a little bit. And when you get your MOP back, whenever that might be, because he's not playing tomorrow, this offense is going to be able to ground and pound like we saw. And I think there's more potential with the passing game than maybe we've seen through the first two games, as impressive as that's been.
Hey, I have to ask you, does Jason Hogan have some sort of beef with his former coworker, Buck Pierce, laying the big man touchdown on in the second week of the season? I mean, I'm half joking about that, but I mean, to be able to pull that off in game number 2 and Tui Eli, who knew the hands that the big guy had?
I've probably watched that play a dozen times, Hassan. I'm still blown away at how quickly, the big men don't run 4.40s, right? But he got off the edge there and made his cut into the corner of the end zone pretty impressively there. And to your point, man, that was not an easy pass to catch because they were running out of room there. Zach couldn't really, float it out there and let him kind of saunter over to it. He had to throw a bit of a dart, and Tui locked in. The funny thing is, I talked to him about this after the game. He celebrated in the moment, pointed up to the sky, had the ball, and then he didn't seem to know what to do after that. And he just handed the ball to Stanley Bryant. And apparently what has happened is that they got everybody on the offensive line to sign it. And it's sitting in the offensive line meeting room for the rest of the season, at least, as a salute to all those big guys. Everybody likes a big guy touchdown, right? And I thought that was a cool moment.
Listen, there's nothing like the thick six, and we got one early in the season. And I mean, just thoughts on the O-line overall, though. I mean, this was, one of those areas, with some off-season player movement that I think we were wondering how it would look. The bottom line is it has to be good because, that's the foundation for everything you do offensively. What happens, the ability to protect, and of course, the ability to open up holes, which was very impressive to start off the season.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out, Huss, because in week 1, the offense, had that impressive performance, but they ran for over 200 yards. And then over the 2 games here, they've had 5 passing touchdowns, and you don't get that done unless you've got protection up front. I think Kendall Randolph settled in really well at right tackle. He's played there before, but that's where Eric Lofton, who's on the 6-game injured list, was all of last year. And they've had 2 different guards this year. Mika Vanterpool looked really solid, I thought, in the first game. And then he gets sit down, and Gabe Wallace played last week. And it's been steady. It's been really a good group. And, Stanley does his thing as per usual. Pat Neufeld, who was dinged up a bit last year, has looked really good. And Chris Kolonkowski steady at center. So those guys have been really good through the first two games for the Bombers.
Ed, special teams wise, I have to admit, I think early returns pretty good for Vival, the guy that's been returning and taking advantage of his opportunity with Peyton Logan on the IR.
Yeah, it's a neat story because Coach O'Shea just talked about him about maybe an hour ago at his press conference, Huss, and he really praised the kid because he's really wants to learn. As he said, you don't always get that. A guy that's got natural return abilities, it's sort of tell me whether I'm going left and whether I'm going right, and then their pure natural ability takes over. But apparently Trey has been asking all the right questions and trying to learn all the nuances of the Canadian game, and I like how he attacks the returns. And that might sound silly, but the ball never hits the ground, and he attacks it like he wants to plow through people. And often we see guys, they catch it and they want to go side to side, but Trey sees the seam and he's off to the races. I think he might be on the verge of busting one here too, Huss. I think that he's got that much skill.
Well, and listen, we always know that it is next man up, but I would suggest, and listen, when Logan is healthy, they're going to see what he's able to do, but we all know that you can't help the club from the tub, and right now, Vival's the guy that's helping the club, and he has an opportunity really to certainly make it a lot more difficult for anybody to come off the IR, off the practice roster, and take the job. It's his job right now to run with it, and so far, so good.
Yeah, that's you start to get into the makeup of the roster after that when you make those decisions, right? And and Trey is a backup defensive back, and every team wants that. And this team, the depth chart for tomorrow only has Nick Hallett at safety and Trey backing up at corner. I know he can play halfback too. So the debate becomes when Peyton Logan comes back, he's a backup running back. But Matthew Peterson's been pretty good. Quentin Cooley's looked pretty good in his flashes. So do you need another running back, or how do you make that work with Peterson and Brady, a healthy Brady Oliveira on the roster? That is going to be a really interesting decision that they're going to have to make whenever that might be down the road.
Now, Ed, I certainly hope that the game time decision on Nick Dembski will be a precautionary measure, and we'll see number 10 out there doing his thing at Princess Auto Stadium. If he's unable to go as a Canadian starter, what does or does it have an effect on the ratio?
Yeah, they could bring in anybody and start playing around with the ratio. I don't think it as a game time decision thing that you want to be tinkering with your roster a whole bunch. So right now, excuse me, on the roster, you've got Joey Corcoran, the draft pick that will dress, so he could play. But you could also bring Gavin Cobb up, the former University of Manitoba product, who's played with Edmonton, also is a kick return guy too. So I would imagine if they decide last minute that Dembski can't go, that it would be Corcoran and Gavin Cobb probably. I talked to Dembski today. He did a media interview. It sure sounds like he's going to go unless he gets up tomorrow and his ankle or has ballooned. I think he'll be in the lineup and maybe has a chance to extend that consecutive games with a catch streak. He's at 73 right now. I think that's the highest active streak in the CFL. So it'd be kind of cool if he goes. Expect him to be fed the ball early to at least keep that streak alive. I know he says he doesn't care about it. Zach Calera says he's the ultimate team player, but that's too cool a streak to let die if you dress for a game. Yeah,
no doubt about that. Hey, speaking of extending streaks, how about this streak of the support of the fans of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers? Pushing another sellout now, according to Wade Miller at the walkthrough. Ed, it's a special time right now. I mean, this entire period, you think back, often I'll have conversations like, think about where this organization was 10 years ago and, spoiled with the success every year. Would have loved to maybe win the last one a couple more times in the last 3 years. But, I mean, the fan support for this club, it really is the envy and the standard right now in the Canadian Football League that everybody else is looking to achieve.
Yeah, I think if the game sells out, and it's sure trending that way, I think that would be 8 straight. I have to check my math on that. I think it would be 8 straight. The commissioner is in town, the new commissioner, Stuart Johnson. I'm glad, too, because he'll get a chance to experience what a Bomber home game is like. And I'm hoping that he sees the magic here and then takes it to all the other markets and says, hey, study what they're doing there because they're doing it right. You're right, Huss. It is a special time, and it's cool because June games have always been a tough sell because of people graduating, and it's a Thursday night game. These are 2 Thursday night games in a row, and it sounds like they're both going to be sellouts. Those aren't easy sells either. I know my sons don't like to go because they have to work the next day, and they'd like to have a few adult beverages, as we say.
Tough it out, boys. Tough it out.
Tough it out. Yeah. They're not a veteran in that aspect yet, like you, Huss. So it's interesting. Thursday nights in June, and we're on the verge of sellouts. We were talking the other day on our podcast about the Dunnigan 7-13 game way back in July of 1994, and I went back and looked at some of the numbers on that just the other day. That game was the Bombers' home opener at Winnipeg Stadium, and Dunnigan and Walby and Gerald Wilcox, and just a stacked team, right? And the attendance for that game, the home opener, was like 22,000. So, and that's at the old stadium. I know things have changed, but it's not like the Bombers weren't popular back then too. So when you make reference, Huss, to this being a special time, you're bang on. This is a good football team. It's fun to be here, and people like being in the park to see it live. We're so used to now being at home and watching it on your 70-inch high-def TV, and but there's something special about being in the ballpark here.
Well, on 8 straight sellouts, listen, that I don't believe has ever even come close to happening in my lifetime. And I would imagine, I don't know what it was like in the previous stadiums or, how it was. But, I mean, this is probably the greatest run in the history of the Winnipeg Football Club when it comes to attendance and support of the team, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'd have to check. That's a great question. I'll bring that up with Steve Daniel, the league statistician, to see if he can check. It might have been a year when the team was hosting the Grey Cup in the past that those numbers might have been high. And I know the year that Milt Stegall was chasing the touchdown record, the all-time touchdown record, that we were packing the building fairly regularly then. But it's a good point, Huss. And what's really interesting is it's in stark contrast to the rest of the league in a lot of ways, right? Some spots still have attendance issues. I think Edmonton's probably disappointed with their crowd for their home opener. Last Saturday in Calgary, what was it? 4 degrees and the wind was like 80 kilometers an hour. And I don't know how many people they had there. So it's interesting. The Bombers have led the league in attendance in the last few years too. So it's unfortunately been a bit of an anomaly around the league. So that's why I'm happy that the new commissioner is in town and he'll get a chance to see this live and in person tomorrow.
Great stuff, Eddie. Cannot wait for the game tomorrow again, folks. If you haven't already got your tickets, don't snooze on that because it's going to be full, I expect, again. Eddie, you mentioned Jamal Parker, who we saw being one of the stars of the game, taking it to the house. He was on the Huddle yesterday, and also Zach Collaros and Dalton Schoen on the I love the name, Handled Internally podcast. Shout out Mike Kelly. Fill people in on what they may have missed that's available right now at the Blue Bomber YouTube channel.
Well, I appreciate the plug, Huss. First of all, Zach is really into podcasting now, so he's going to be a regular co-host with myself and Darren Cameron. That makes it interesting because he's the one that brought in Dalton Schoen. I don't know who next week's guest will be, but when the quarterback is one of the co-hosts, he's
a good guest booker.
Yeah. Good
guest booker, Ed.
There you go. And Jamal Parker was an interesting chat yesterday in our huddle. He's a real big movie guy, and we had a good chat about how he got here. He missed last year with the knee injury, the recovery of that. It's a fun, a couple different ways for fans to get to see another side of the players. Zach really loosens up on the podcast here, and when we have them sit down across from me here in the huddle chairs, we have a lot of fun because it's not necessarily just about football.
No, definitely not. Great stuff, folks. Check that out over at the Blue Bomber YouTube channel. And of course, full coverage leading into the game tomorrow and after the game with you and the crack staff at bluebombers.com. Eddie, thanks for doing this, and good luck to the fellas tomorrow night.
Appreciate you, Huss. Thanks for having me on. Have a good day.
Appreciate it. There's Ed Tait. You can follow Ed on X, Ed Tait WFC, and of course, all of his content on the Blue Bombers at bluebombers.com. All right, we're going to get to the Coolbet lines. Pete Gregoire's going to join me in a minute. We got to talk about the Rocket Classic. Let's do some fan feedback. Brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market. What you see is what you pay. No fees, folks. You go to Fans First, you see a number. That is the charge you will get, not ridiculous after market upgrades for what you're getting stuck with. And the great news is, as we talk about a potential 8th straight sellout for the Blue Bombers, Blue Bomber tickets now available on Fans First. So if it's last minute, you got to sell some, or you're looking for a couple and the team doesn't have any, Fans First will have it for you. Check out the site today, fansfirst.ca. Lots of talk about the Bombers here. Impressed with Vival. Schnitzy, I believe. What's up, Schnitzy? Mentioning that Val is the best punt return average right now in the Canadian Football League. Lots of talk about then here's another one. The defense is legit, though. Only 8 points in the fourth quarter, a garbage time TD. Shades of 2021 Dark Side D. We will see. And Rob Mahoney crediting Zach Collaros for building Travis Kelce. Have to have good hands when the QB throws with such velocity that he rips his own finger open. Keep it coming, I should say, for fan feedback in the chat. Brought to you by fansfirst.ca, by fans, for fans, no fees. All right, Goldeyes finishing up their roadie tonight, and then back at it here on the weekend and through Canada Day and next week. So if you haven't been out to the ballpark yet, 982 base, goldeyes.com. Should be a great week with some nice weather here in the Peg heading into Canada Day for some Gold Eyes baseball. Of course, we will get to our picks for ASD tonight in just a minute. But I got to give a huge shout out to Breezy Bend. I was there yesterday for a friend's 50th, had an unbelievably fun round. And afterwards, the hospitality of Corey and the gang, what they do for, that has to be the most fun atmosphere at a golf club I have maybe ever been around. A great time last night, and I can tell you they are really looking forward to the Manitoba Open. Of course, they've done so much on the golf course with the hole changes and course improvements, and now it's time to show the course and the new clubhouse off. End of August, Manitoba Open coming to Breezy Bend this year. I'll be looking forward to doing some shows on location there as well. But hey, if you want more information on getting on the waiting list for next season for Breezy Bend, go to breezybend.ca or give our pal Corey Johnson a holler over at the clubhouse. All right, let's bring in my guy, Pat Gregoire from coolbet.com. We got to make some golf picks today. We got to check out the baseball lines. Patty, what's good, buddy? How are you?
Doing good, Huss. We are officially in the little bit of a stretch here. That's the dog days of summer for golf. We do have the Open coming up. Next couple of tournaments I know aren't the sexiest, but I think there's a ton of value on the board here at the Rocket Classic at Detroit Golf Club. I think there's a formula out there. A lot of people are following it, but I'm following the money here. I think there is a lot of value a little bit deeper on the board.
Well, we'll get to that before we do a quick victory lap. Shout out to us. Allow me to Barry Horowitz myself, Keegan Bradley, 40-1, 33-1 last week, and our Sunday Sweat Club, Nick Taylor, top Canadian, with the Keegan top 20 came through as well. Was a very, very great weekend for the Sunday Sweat Club, which takes us to the D and the Rocket Classic. Expand a little bit more before we get into the picks on what we're looking for at this course in a field that's pretty light after a major and an elevated event last week. Colin Morikawa, the favorite, albeit at 11-1. Well, we can get into this. I was surprised that the numbers on a lot of these players, I thought they'd maybe be lower, Pat, because of the guys that aren't in the tournament, but that's not really what we're seeing right now at Coolbet.
No, it's not. I think there's a few things that go into that. One, the mental state that Colin Morikawa is in right now. I don't even know if I would bet him in a Corn Ferry Tour event at 11-1 right now. Doesn't have a caddy. He's been, going at it in battles against media. If you want to get caught up on everything Colin Morikawa, listen to friend of the program, Jeff Feinberg. He has been all up in his grill, calling him out for what he's been doing there. But yeah, you look at the odds board. I think a big other reason why is the fact that this is a bomber and a gouger course. It's a very long course. We've seen guys in years past just bomb it. And, even if you don't find fairways, you're still able to figure it out. So that's why a guy like Colin Morikawa, who's not very long off the tee, is only 11-1, even though you look at his skill set. Keegan Bradley, 14-1. Again, coming off a huge win, but again, what's really the chances that he can go back-to-back? Cantlay, just really not in great form as of late. And Ben Griffin, I think, probably the guy that is in best form in this field, sitting at 22-1. So, like I said, I think there's a lot of value, but what I looked here, Huss, are two different key stats. Length off the tee, strokes gained off the tee, and I guess 3, and then also just the ability to gain strokes with your putter. This is a course similar to what we talked about last week, although the score wasn't as low as I think a lot of people thought because of the wind. You got to make birdies. You got to make big putts. And that's going to be the case here in Detroit. We've seen it time and time again.
I'm glad you brought up Ben Griffin. I totally agree with you. My card is starting with the Top Gun, the Aviators out there. And he's been so good all year. He's been consistent. He's competed in top events. He's competed in majors. He's won. To me, he's the best player at this point right now in this field. And at 22-1, considering the rest of the guys in the tourney, I think it's really good value. The other guy I was quite intrigued with that's actually popped a little bit over the course of the last month is Cam Young. Now, I think a few people are jumping on Cam Young because when I was talking about this earlier today, he was at 28-1. He's now at 25-1, but I still think a very fair price for a guy that was right there at the Open. We saw him at the RBC when we were out in Toronto watching that. I mean, he's sort of come out of his slump right now, and it seems like he's ready to pop, and maybe the Rocket Classic is a perfect place to do just that.
It really is. When you think about it, he finished tied for second back in 2022. I think he had a good result here last year as well. You want to talk about bombing it off the tee. Cam Young is that guy. Like, he fits this course, and you're right. The form has been there. The only issue with me is, much like our friend Tommy Fleetwood, we saw him absolutely choke away a lead. Cam Young does a lot of the same. He just maybe doesn't do it quite in as dramatic fashion as we've seen Tommy Fleetwood do over the last couple of years. So I'm not going to put my money on Cam Young. More of my strategy is trying to take some of the long shots, usually after a big win, because Huss, you and I both were all over Keegan last week, and the Sunday Sweat Club came out. Normally, I'll take a little less of risk and maybe up the ante a little more on my unit size. This week, I'm making more bets, but I'm going to go a little bit more on the long shots, because what we've seen in these signature events, it's been the top guys winning those signature events. In these normal events, it's a lot more wide open. I think there's an opportunity for some of these other players to get to that point. But Cam Young, my best bet is involving Cam Young. For him, top 10 plus 220. I don't know how this makes any sense. I thought this would have been plus 180, plus 190, somewhere in that ballpark. It just doesn't add up to me. I don't think he's going to win this tournament. If he won, I wouldn't be surprised. Gets his first victory. But him to finish inside the top 10, even him to finish inside the top 20, you're still getting plus money at plus 145. Remarkable, really. But I guess I'll go down my card. A guy that you like, a guy that we both like. I haven't liked his game as of late, but he is an absolute course fit here. Min-Woo Lee, 40-1. He has showed that he has flashes here. He's only played here once. His first appearance was last year. He finished T2. He bombs it off the tee. Everyone knows that. And he has the ability to heat up with that flat stick. In his win earlier this year, it was at a birdie fest. Any other time that we've seen him, jump up the board, it's been at birdie fest. And the big factor for me, Huss, is his sister won another major last week. So, Dr. Chapinski is going to look to keep up with Min-Ji Lee and try to come up with a big victory here. Another guy, Steven Yeager, 66-1. This guy seems to, whenever it's the signature events, he's not quite there. He'll maybe be around there Thursday, Friday. But on some of these non-elevated events, that's where he really, really competes. He finished solo 5 back here in 2022. He was T9 in 23. He's 25th in strokes gained putting. And although he's not maybe in the top, 20 of, driving distance, he's still within the top 60. He can bomb it off the tee. Maybe not as big as some of the other guys who I have on my card. Michael Bjornsson. If we're going to go with bombers, let's go with the young guy, 80-1. I knew he could bomb it off the tee, but he's ranked 5th in driving distance on the entire tour and 19 in strokes gained off the tee. 20th in birdie or better percentage. So I think this is a guy that is just destined to finally put 4 rounds together, because we've seen him pop. We've seen him have that. It just hasn't been able to mix for a full 4 days. And then 2 other quick long bombs that I'm going for. 2 guys that I've been on many, many times, and I'm sure you probably could guess. Aldrich Puttgeider, 125-1, and Alejandro Tosti, friend of the program, 151. Yeah. Toast Malone is making an appearance back on the card, because I think if he can just putt, if he can just not lose 2 to 3 strokes with his putter, he's going to be in the mix here. This is the perfect golf course for him. And I think Pat Gregoire as well. He's ranked first in driving distance. This guy is South African, absolutely nukes it off the tee.
I love a few of those. And I'll just point out, just as I go through, I mean, I like those guys at the top. Akshay Bhatia, who has been was second last year. He's at 40-1. I don't mind him. I'm interested. I mean, Wyndham Clark, I know he needs anger management classes, but with his ball striking and hitting it off the tee, 40-1 on him is not too bad. Although I do sort of lean Min Woo based on that. But if you go a little further down the board, Benny On, 66-1, right there with Steven Yeager. He's been playing some pretty good golf over the course of the last couple months. Couple numbers that are just shocking to see, though. This field, Tom Kim, 75-1, just shows to show you where he's at right now. But how about this? Cam Davis is the defending champ. He's won this tournament 2 of the last 4 years, and he's sitting at 80-1. That's a number on recent form as opposed to the course. But if you are thinking about familiarity can help a guy get back to where he wants to be, Cam Davis coming back, defending his championship, looking for his 3rd title here. Kind of interesting as well. What do we want to do for the Sunday Sweat Club? Let's go back to back here, Patty.
Yeah, we have to quickly before I do get to that. First round leader, Kashmir Keith, 40-1.
Let's go.
This is he has been a money making machine for the first round leaders, and I think he could do it here. I don't think his putter's good enough to win this thing, but to be sitting at the top of the leaderboard after Thursday, I could totally see it.
I got good news for you, by the way.
What's that?
Since you were looking, that line's moved. Kashmir Keith, 50-1 at Coolbet for the first round leader. As I get in on that right now. Timing is everything, Pat.
It really is, especially with these events that are completely wide open. So I like that number even better. I think you and I both, can agree. Minwoo Lee, 40-1. We both like him to win this thing, but for him to finish inside the top 20 with this field, what is it, plus 170 for him, top 20. Cam Young, I love him at top 10, so that obviously means I love him even more for top 20. The question is now, okay, which one of your picks maybe do you like that we can round things off?
How about we
here?
go Ben Griffin? I mean, if we've got Min Woo at plus 170, let's do Griffin, Young, and Min Woo. And we'll see if the chef can cook up a top 20 with a couple other guys that I feel pretty good about being there on Sunday afternoon in contention.
Yeah, I really, really like that. I think all 3 of those guys are going to be in contention to win, never mind finish top 20. So I'm a huge fan of that. My Greggy's Golf special for the week, I went with a cut parlay. So Minwoo Lee, Akshay Bhatia, which you talked about, Keegan Bradley, and Steven Yeager, all to make the cut, plus 312, boosted it up to plus 359.
Count me in on that as well, Pat, and I will just touch on that right while we get in here. Nice little boost up to plus 359. I don't want to forget this, and I don't want to miss this number. Hey, before we go, Max Scherzer making his season debut for the Blue Jays tonight in Cleveland. I did actually put together a boosted ride with Huss. We got the Rangers over the Orioles. DeGrom's pitching tonight. Scherzer for the Jays, and the Twins to salvage a win out of this series and not get swept by the Mariners. That's 5-1 in the book. It is boosted in the combo cards up to plus 574. But for Jays fans, and listen, this is the time where we think we watch a lot more Jays, and it's great they're doing so well right now. There's a bunch of props. What do we expect from Scherzer, and what's up for a little Scherzer action tonight for people that'll be taking in the Blue Jays game?
Yeah, obviously now, as you guys have probably noticed when you're going into the baseball odds, there's a lot more options when you look now for some of these player props. It's not just one over under. You're looking at a lot of different ones. But if you look at what it's set at, 4.5 over for his strikeouts at minus 104, unders minus 126. For him to get 5 strikeouts, I absolutely love it. All reports say that he's looking great. We know how big of a competitor Mad Max is. And let's be honest, I think the aura around this Blue Jays team right now feels a lot different than maybe the last time I was on the program here talking about this baseball team. So when I woke up this morning and saw it was at plus 102 after what we saw those bats do last night, I was dumbfounded. I thought the Jays would have been favored even with Max Scherzer, who hasn't played a game in 88 days. We're talking about a 3-time Cy Young winner. Is he the pitcher that he was back then? Absolutely not. But you can't take the fight out of the dog. This guy is still an ultra competitor. And from all indications, it sounds like he's healthy as can be, and he's ready to go.
Patty G, let's do it again. Back to back from the Travelers to the Rocket Mortgage Classic. We will get the Sunday Sweat Club parlay up in the Coolbet combos as well. There's a golf super boost. Lives in Dallas, home game for Bryson DeChambeau. Morikawa top 20 and DeChambeau top 10. Boosted up to plus 238. There's another make the cut parlay at 4-1 with Fowler, Wyndham Clark, Bradley, Morikawa, and Cam Young up there. And of course, click on that Jays game with some specials for the game tonight. And again, the baseball parlay that I put together tonight, Rangers, Jays, and Twins, boosted up to plus 574. And folks, don't forget to click on the promotions. Oh, and by the way, while we congratulate Hammer and Alexandra for coming 1-2 in the poker tourney, it is important to note that if you missed out, I know Schickster was choked and he didn't end up getting in the finals. We do have a couple of other opportunities to get in. Now, the Western Regional is going to be on the 3rd of July. That's what, 7 o'clock Eastern?
7 o'clock Pacific.
Pacific time. Okay, so 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. on July 3rd. So that is next Thursday. And then the following Tuesday, July 8th, our pal Pat Mayo is doing his qualifier with a couple spots in there. I think I'll make a point of getting in there with Pat on that one. July 8th, 7 o'clock Central Time. So the 3rd and the 8th, more chances to get into the final and get out to the Coolbet Open in Estonia. Unbelievable package. Flights, hotels, entries, a little bit of spending cash, and which should be an incredible trip for whoever figures that out. So I'll remind you on the show, but you can mark it. If you missed out on our tourney or want to get in and try and make it to the finals, July 3rd and July 8th, 2 more chances to get in. Patty, let's get it tonight and this weekend. Thanks for doing this as always.
Always a pleasure. And don't forget, guys, use your profit boost. We've got one for the MLB right now. Boost the bases. We've got the big swing for golf. And yes, the 3-down thrill is back for the CFL season. So that's 3 opportunities to boost your bets once a week by 30%. It's an absolute no-brainer.
You got it. And all you got to do is just click the green box. You literally don't have to do anything. But check the promos, opt in on the good ones. Certainly the golf trip to Cabot for you golfers out there. Still plenty of time to get in that as we run it through the summer. P. Greggy, we'll talk to you soon, pal. Thanks for doing this.
Take care, boys. Thanks for having me as always.
Good stuff. Coolbet.com with all of that. Now, let's get Remo in here. Remo, I know you and Connor hit the Coolbet boost yesterday and got a nice little winner when I was away, and you guys did the Coolbet lines. 1-0 as a team making bets yesterday.
Yeah, we're going through the lines, and he's like, oh, how about this? We'd like to look at the super boost where it takes something that's, maybe a negative number and gives you plus money. And what were we on? The Canada won in the soccer, and Vlad Guerrero Jr. to get a hit. So we nailed that one, and I see what they have. Scherzer over 3.5 strikeouts and Bichette to get a hit. So maybe I'll hop on there as well.
Yeah, that one's for minus 133 boosted to plus 125 for tonight's action. Speaking of tonight's action, we have action back at Assiniboia Downs in Ream. I guess I got a refunded bet because of a scratch yesterday. Other than that, though, still looking for the first big win of the week, and hopefully tonight can be the night as we go for the third of 3 straight days of live racing at Assiniboia Downs.
Yeah, I was also over. I had one bet refunded, a $6 bet returned. Eagle Eyes said he rode with me last night. Sorry, Eagle Eyes, couldn't deliver. I got a lot of blanks this week. I did have the one winner. That was Monday. So not my best work here. So I'm trying to make ground on you. Gonna have to try and hit one of these big ones that you've managed to do the last 2 years now, and it can kind of make your whole season.
Well, I mean, was it 3 days left last year, and I hit a $1 bet for 1,100 or whatever. I mean, I doubt that'll ever happen again. But did have a nice one of about 300 earlier this year, and just kind of hanging around right now. Time to get a win this week. Let's start off. Do you have race 1 or 2?
I have race 1. Let me just log in here. Let me log in. Race 1, I have horse 4 to win, and that is Smack Over Lime to win.
Nicely done. Nothing on 2?
Just 4, 5, and 7.
Okay, perfect. I am okay. I've got 4, 5, and 7 as well, but I'm also in on 3, and I'm actually going to jump in with an early triactor box. I'm going with the 1 horse, Distinctive Deb, along with 4, Sophia Storm, and 6, Burrow Down. 4 and 6, pretty big favorites, but we'll get Distinctive Deb in there and see if we can make a winner right off the bat. So that is for race number 3. And then if I go over to race number 4, just a simple win bet, $4 on number 4, Big Walk in the yellow. Where are you going on race 4?
I got 3, 6, Exacta, Lieutenant Norm, and Big Walk. So we're similar page there.
All right, we can win both of those bets. Race number 5, I've got a Exacta box of 1 and 4. Prairie Drifter, number 4, and number 1, Big Investment.
Okay, I have 1, 3, 5. So I have Big Investment, Maybella, and Diane's Wish. So don't have Prairie Drifter on mine.
And then the final race of the evening, race number 7, we're cranking out.
Oh, wait. Do I have that? I might have said the wrong one. I have 1, 3, 5. Yeah, sorry. You're right. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. All right, my final one, race number 7, triactor box, $1. Blue Tango, number 1. Awesome Wildcat, number 4, and Awfully Special, number 5. The $1 tractor box is a $6 wager, and that wraps up my picks. What do you got?
We're in a similar. I have 1 Blue Tango, 5 Awfully Special, and 7 Dusk. So I have the big favorite. You did not put that one in, and we'll roll the dice here or start the. What do they say when they? I've watched so many of these. I should have it down, but when they start the horses, and we'll see who comes out on top.
And they're off.
And they're off.
Of course, Kirk and Stretch will have their analysis beforehand on the Assiniboia Downs YouTube channel. Great watch if you are at home and want to stay in touch with it. And, of course, you can go to hpibet.com if you want to bet the races and watch on YouTube from the comfort of your own home. Fun show today, and of course tomorrow, big game day show, Reem. We're going to have the commissioner of the Canadian Football League, Stuart Johnson. Eddie Steele's going to join us from Edmonton to tee up tonight's game. And we'll also get into some more draft talk with Grant McCagg from recruits.ca.
Yeah, Murat hopping in as well, rating a lot at the Athletics. So busy show. I'm excited to hear from the commissioner. I want to know more about his vision for the league. He's taking in the game, as Ed said, tomorrow. Going to see how it's done here in the class of the CFL. I'm excited for what, and I did enjoy that he commented that the stats and the CFL Plus streaming not up to par. That was in the preseason. So, he's had some time now to get a handle on the job. So looking forward to welcoming the new CFL commissioner on the show, as well. Touch on the NHL draft, the next crop of NHL stars, and a lot of people asking me, what's with this draft this year? Stephen Wino has an article in the Associated Press, whoever picks that up, just interview with Steve Mayer, who's does all the events. Just how, they thought it was so much more simple having this decentralized draft, but no, now they have to have cameras in every city around the league, and the logistics of putting together this broadcast. I think it was a good idea in theory, and
no, it was a terrible idea in theory, though. We're going to save all this money. Really? You got to fly people somewhere, whether they're in LA, whether they're all the same things.
Idea.
And then you're adding so much more from a production standpoint because it's in 32 different places. So.
That was the idea in theory. We're going to save money. But yeah, they was, oh, wait, we actually have to fly all of our scouts who don't live in the city of the team that they work for, and we'll have to fly them in anyway and put them in a hotel. And, missed opportunities of meeting in person. So I think it's going to be different. I'm curious to see how they do it with the celebrity picks. Now, that's just for round one. Like, round two is totally different. You're not going to have the picks there. Like, who is the player? Martin, who has to be on the farm? Was his name Blake Martin? Is that the name?
Okay, yep.
Like, he's not going to the draft. He's like, well, I have to be, I forget his name. He has to be on the farm at home. He can't go to the draft. I was like, yeah, why would you go to this draft? You can't. Part of the draft is shaking the hand of the owner, the GM who picked you, putting on the jersey.
Yeah.
If you can't do that, like, why even go? Unless they're paying your top pick and they're like paying for your vacation to LA. Like, I mean, none of the teams are there. Why would you go? So, and it was interesting hearing Michael Hutchinson's draft experience too when he joined. That was a really nice conversation. So,
yeah, fun having Hutch on. How about that shirt?
Tuned. Well, he's rocking. Man, he got ready for this interview. Put on the Hellebuck shirt, did his hair. It was a fun conversation. Good insight on what it was like when they were on St. John's. The Calder Cup just wrapped up. I remember when Hutchinson took the Ice Caps to, I looked it up, Game 5 against Texas. Texas won 3 straight games in overtime in St. John's to win that. That's tough. That's tough.
Hey, speaking of Hutch, Remis, if you can, pull up Hutchinson's Hockey DB page and put it on the screen. Just speaking, you mentioned that he did his hair. He looked great. Very nice. I was just looking at his career numbers and going into some of the Jet teams that he played on. Kate, look at this. This is the one that we're seeing right now. Pretty nice flow on Hutch. Click on it. Just go through the list. There, Kate, there's another one. Excellent flow on Hutch here. It gets a little more tame as we go through. The first two, very, very nice. See, very clean cut Hutch there, far away from the first two. I think that's an Ice Caps one. It's a Caps one, I believe. That's a Jet.
Yeah,
that's a Jet. That's a Jet as well. One of the great functions of Hockey DB, where you just keep on clicking and you see all the guys' headshots. The previous one, I think, looked like
this is like the rookie one, yeah.
Yeah, or the rookie one, actually. Yeah, that's right, with the Boston Bruins. So, anyways, fun. We'll get Hutch on again sometime. He was a lot of fun to have on. Appreciate him jumping on. All right, K&R doing their thing. So we'll head you over there. Let's get some WST raids in the chat.
Yeah, K&R, and Darren is also doing bonfires. So we're going to send you to K&R, but Darren is also doing bombers.
You want football talk? Go over to Bonfire for Walby and Bombing doing their thing. Join us tomorrow, game day edition. CFL Commissioner Stuart Johnson joining us. Eddie Steele on Bombers Elks. More on the draft, and Murat Atesh on the Jets heading into draft weekend. Join us tomorrow. Thanks to all of our sponsors. Thanks to you for being a part of it. Tell a friend about Winnipeg Sports Talk. Hit that thumbs up before you go if you're with us on YouTube. And we'll see you tomorrow right here on WST. Have a great one.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.